What's up, patrons? Ben and Chad here once again as the CME's Patreon Power Hour rolls on for September 6th, 2024. And as we sat down this week and started to think about spending this Power Hour talking about the UFC Fight Night event on Saturday that pitches Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns against each other in the main event down there at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, we thought to ourselves, we would rather fucking die.
Wow.
So, as a result, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that to ourselves. We're not going to do that to you, the beloved patrons of the co-main event. We might spend a few minutes talking about it, but we're not going to devote that much time to it.
No.
We're not going to do that. So what we're going to end up doing this week on the Power Hour, we're going to do power rankings up front. And then at the end of the show, depending on how much time we have, we'll do $20 we never want to see again. I know.
If we don't have time for it, that's okay. It'll be all right if we don't have time this week.
You don't want to make sure we squeeze it in there?
You know what? We got stuff to do. I know you got a heart out here. It's fine, really, by me if we don't end up getting to it.
You know what? I'll try to save a few minutes just because I know everyone's.
Hey, if you're feeling it, or hey, for that matter, if I'm feeling it, as we're discussing power rankings, and maybe if I feel called to just hold forth on some topic for, frankly, a suspiciously long period of time.
Hold on.
We'll just deal with it.
Are you telling me you're going to filibuster this shit? You're going to filibuster so that we don't have time to do $20 you never want to see again?
No, I need us to do it so I can start winning my money back with my can't miss 100% correct bets this week.
Can't wait. All right. Bring the music in. Let's get started. There's no reason to put it off any longer. We're going to do co-main event podcast, Patreon Power Hour, Power Rankings, counting them down from 10 to 1, the most powerful happenings in the world of mixed martial arts this week. Number 10, Ben, give me the elevator pitch for why I should care even the smallest pebble-sized shit about this weekend's UFC Fight Night. You have 60 seconds. Go.
60 seconds starting now.
You have 55 seconds still remaining on the clock.
It's going to be 50 more seconds than I need, I'm afraid. Okay, look. We're over there. We're in the Apex right off the bat. That's the UFC telling you this one doesn't really matter that much. However, you're dealing with your guy Gilbert Burns on a bit of a precipice. He's lost 2 straight. One of those was to remember the name current champ Bilal Muhammad. Doesn't look so bad in retrospect. Whether it was for flat-nosed Jackie, also a known guy in the division, so not so bad. But you get on a 3-fight losing streak as a gentleman of a certain age. It's not a great sign. Not a great sign. On the other side, you got Sean Brady has that one loss. Also, to remember the name, doesn't look so bad in retrospect. Then again, it's like, okay, Bilal Muhammad's record didn't have a ton of finishes except for Sean Brady. Well, fine.
Time's up. You know what, though? You didn't do a bad job. I don't think you did a bad job. You kind of dressed it up.
One of those fights. We should come up with a term for this, where it's the UFC being like, is this guy washed? Is this guy going to become something? I don't know. Put them in the same cage together. Let's see who comes out, and maybe that'll answer our question. Because if Sean Brady loses this one, that's probably the UFC going to be like, maybe he's not going to become something. If Gilbert Burns loses this one, he's washed. We're trying to find, we won't learn everything there is to learn in a fight like this, but we'll find out something. We'll find out something about what each guy is not, that kind of a thing.
Sort of a 2 men enter, 1 man leaves with his reputation intact type situation.
Yeah. Why not?
Number 9 this week, Ben. One guy on Saturday night's Fight Night card is allegedly the biggest favorite in UFC history. So there's that. Talking about this fight between Isaac Dulgarian.
There it is.
And Brendan Marat. Isaac Dulgarian going off at minus 2,400, which according to Show Me the Money podcast, which is not something I've ever heard of before, makes Bulgarian the longest long shot in MMA history. And so, at some sports books, Bulgarian is as high as minus 3,335,
Come on.
which is some interesting odds. Could this possibly be true? Is this the longest odds we've ever seen in UFC history? I feel like we've possibly seen some longer odds.
I don't know. Bo Nickel, I think, wasn't he the? Well, I don't. Well, if we go MMA history, that's one thing. UFC history, it's a little narrower. Like Bo Nickel, I remember it was newsworthy when he was one of the biggest favorites in UFC history, and that was like minus 2,000 or something, right? I feel like Bellator in the heyday of Bellator being like essentially putting together the old WWF jobber matches where it'll be The Undertaker versus like Steve Betts or something, and it's like, okay, we're kind of doing that where it's like some guy with 3 Magomeds in his name versus local guy who could sell as many as 30 tickets to people from his gym. And we'd see some pretty long odds with that one, right? There must have been some minus 3,000s up in there. Some
Meanwhile,
classic
Ben Folks,
sprinkles.
if we're doing $20 we never want to see again, Ben Folks is sitting at home being like, this is the one where Steve Betts breaks out.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Betts, a lot of potential.
He's due.
You know what? I think this Undertaker might be overrated. He's a paper tiger.
Yeah.
Who's he fought? Who's he beat? Steve
Yeah.
Betts is weak,
Red
man.
Rooster. No, come on.
Tonka. Number 8 this week, Ben. If you're allegedly going to be a racist road rager patrolling the streets of New Zealand, you could probably find a safer target for your racist road rage than Israel Adesanya. This was in the news this week. A video emerges of Adesanya and another fella who's, by the way, wearing Crocs. Just want to throw that out there. Getting into it at the side of the road. You don't get to see the beginning or the end of the confrontation in the video that gets posted online. But in the wake of it, Israel Adesanya has released a statement. He says, I am extremely disappointed after an incident on Wednesday when a random member of the public stopped his car, racially abused me.
Random member of the public.
Yeah.
We're all of us random members of the public to somebody.
We should be so lucky. Racially abused me and challenged me to a fight. We have been in contact with police and will be pressing charges. On Wednesday morning, I was at a cafe on K Road when a passing car slowed and an occupant began yelling racial abuse and challenging me to a fight. I smiled, waved it off, and continued to my car. The vehicle stopped and the abuse continued. Again, I waved it off. The car then parked and the passenger got out, approached me aggressively, continued his torrent of abuse, and demanded I fight him. I tried to de-escalate the situation repeatedly. As he got closer, I asked bystanders to call the police. He then entered my personal space and I felt threatened. To protect myself, I became more forceful in my language and defensive. Though he paused and the abuse continued, so I left him with some choice words, cautiously moved to my car and drove away.
This just sounds like a Israel Adesanya. This has got to be verbatim. Like they just transcribed exactly what he was saying. Because you can imagine Israel Adesanya saying that he left somebody with some choice words, can't you? That's definitely not a PR person writing that.
It's ridiculous that I can't buy a pie after training without some idiot screaming despicable things and asking for a fight while his mates film from the sidelines. Threatening violence is no joke. It's very dangerous, and incidents like this must not be glorified online. I hope in the future people say something rather than get their phones out to film.
Wow, he's disappointed in the community. Because that was when he started off this statement about how he was extremely disappointed or whatever. I was like, in whom? In himself? In the random member of the public? What? Sounds like he's disappointed in everybody else.
I mean, I imagine him getting back in the car and just being like, well, that was disappointing.
Yeah, the community has failed me once again.
Now, from what I saw on this video, it ends up with Israel Adesanya sort of in a I wish you would take a swing at me type situation.
Okay.
But, you know, if this statement is true, maybe that's understandable.
Yeah, if you're out there in your Crocs and you think you want to racially abuse Israel Adesanya, I gotta feel like this is not, "Hey, I had one bad day." I gotta feel like this is something you are doing kinda regularly. Like, it probably does not take that much, right?
If you're gonna get out there and try to fight Israel Adesanya in your Crocs, you at least gotta go sport mode on that shit. Or you're gonna get knocked out those Crocs, my man.
Yeah.
You're gonna wake up looking for your Crocs if you don't have them in sport mode.
Yeah. You need to stop and think a little bit. That yeah, that ain't a great idea. And I feel like, first of all, you can't stop and buy a pie after
Yeah.
practice? That's
Can't
gotta
even
mean something
stop and
different,
buy a
right?
pie.
Like, what does
I
that
mean,
mean?
it's probably like a hand pie or like a meat pie, don't you think? Like something filling that you would want after practice, sort of a pasty
Yeah,
type
that's what I was
situation.
saying. We're dealing with a pasty equivalent, whatever the pasty equivalent is in New Zealand or something. Because he's not like, "Man, you just finished training, and what do you want? An entire banana
My
cream
God,
pie."
I hope so. I hope Israel Adesanya takes an entire key lime pie home, sits down at the table, and just eats it, still in the box with a fork. I would love that for him.
Yeah, yeah.
I will say it does seem like MMA fighters get in more public confrontations than normal people.
Well, I mean, they they might just have a little less impetus to de-escalate than regular people.
That's true. That's
Also,
true.
especially if we're talking about a road rage incident, I don't know if you've ever driven with an MMA fighter at the wheel. I have a couple times, and I can tell you, I have encountered 0 good drivers.
Wow, they're batting 1,000 for bad
Actually
drivers?
wait, no, Mike Swick was a pretty good driver, but see, then
Okay,
again, he was one of those guys who fell into the camp of too reasonable to be a fighter.
yeah.
So,
Number 7 this week, Ben, Dana White is clearly just working a bit now with this John Jones stuff. Is that good? Now, I forgot to include the link here. I meant to double back and grab it and send
I
it to
saw
you.
it anyway, it doesn't
Okay,
matter.
it's him closing out
Yeah.
his
Somebody sent this to
Instagram
us both,
live.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dana White's doing an Instagram live. The only part I saw of it was the end because someone sent us the video. I don't know what he's talking about, but at the very end, he's sort of like, everybody tune in to the Power Slap Championships going on right now over on Rumble. John Jones, best pound for pound fighter in the world. Boop,
Yep.
and then it clicks off.
Yeah.
That's it. So he's working a bit on this John Jones thing. It has developed into a bit that he is working.
It is. I
To
mean,
which I
credit.
ask, as I said, is this good? Is it actually good to see Dana White engaged enough in UFC business? So he's thinking, number one, I'm going to go ahead and try to get John Jones over as the number one pound for pound fighter in the world before he goes out here and has the fight nobody asked for against Stipe Miocic. And, at this point, he's having a little fun with it.
Yeah. It is, you have to admit, maybe the most positive bit he's ever done. It's better than a bit where you're just yelling at people constantly and talking about how various people, some of them in your employ, suck. That's not a very fun bit. So, this is at least one that is positive in nature because he's talking about how good a fighter that he has on his roster is. And it actually has a little bit of self-deprecating humor to it at this point because he knows, he's well aware the ongoing joke is Dana White has this love affair with John Jones. People are at that press conferences being like, "Does John Jones have pictures of you? What's going on?" And he's still willing to lean into it. So he's at least a little bit willing to be the butt of the joke here. The humor is kind of at the expense of Dana White, who will not let go of this John Jones best fighter in the world thing. That those are both kind of like different positive signs for Dana White, that he's willing to engage in self-deprecating humor rather than malicious humor directed at someone else, and that the bit he's doing is at the end of the day a positive one.
Number 6 this week, Ben. Seriously though, guys, stop encouraging him. Looking at you, Usman Nurmagomedov. Now, this is at the press conference here. Usman Nurmagomedov. He's returning at Bellator San Diego on Saturday. So that's still going, I guess. Here's his quote. For this time now, Islam is number one for sure. But of course, John Jones, this is a legend. Nobody is saying he's not a legend. John Jones is a legend. I grew up watching his fights. I love his style. I love his mentality. This guy is tough. But of course, you're talking about this time. You're not talking about the past. We're talking about now. And for me, people have different opinions. Dana White has his opinion. You have your opinion. This is good. This is not something bad. Now, I agree. I think Usman Nurmagomedov is pointing out what I always say, and that's that the number one pound for pound list, the pound for pound list, is not a lifetime achievement award. It's not about what you've done over the past 15 years. It's about a snapshot of what is happening at this moment in mixed martial arts. And so I think it's probably Islam Makhachev. I don't want to argue about it, but just it is what it is. Sort of a situation. It's a living document. The pound for pound list is a living document.
It was made to be altered. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not, if we wanted it to be set in stone, we might as well just say Anderson Silva's the number one pound for pound fighter in the world.
That's a fair point. Especially, I think that if you allow yourself to think of it as a this moment in time question, you have to ask yourself, when was the last time John Jones faced and beat the best guy in the division that he was in? The best guy other than him, that is.
Would it
Because
have
it wasn't
been?
his last fight against Cyril Gahn. Cyril Gahn was not the guy when he fought.
Would it have been when he fought DC? Maybe. Let me look. I gotta have John Jones's. See, I gotta have John Jones's MMA record in front of me, but to get it in front of me, I have to scroll down through all of the parts of his Wikipedia page that are about
Controversies,
his troubles.
moving violations.
I mean, yeah, it's probably DC, right? I mean, has there ever been a time that John Jones has been in the light heavyweight division when he wasn't the best, when he personally wasn't the best guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy now, I think maybe we look at some fight like the Dominic Reyes thing because we know what happened with Dominic Reyes after that. People were kind of excited about him at the time.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
that one was one where, as people were quick to remind Dana White during one of these back and forths, he showed up after the fight and said he didn't think John Jones deserved to win the decision.
if you look at the post Daniel Cormier opponents for John Jones, it's Lusty Gusty, Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes, and Cyril Gahn. Now, as you said, can't take anything away from Dominic Reyes. Gustafsson was always up near the top of the division. But yeah, it's probably DC. If you actually look at the record and you think, okay, who was it? If John Jones was number one, who was 1A in the division? And that's, it's probably the Cormier feud.
And give him his credit. I mean, picograms or whatever, notwithstanding, he did go out there and put DC's lights out the second time. So it's a good win. Also quite a long time ago.
Number 5 this week, Ben. Not sure if I'm proud of Big Fran for telling Jake Paul to his face he thinks Mike Tyson will kick his ass, or if I'm disappointed that he would sully himself becoming part of this discourse. Now, this is Big Fran, Francis Ngannou, on Jake Paul's podcast. He is on BS with Jake Paul, talking about the upcoming fight against Mike Tyson. Yeah, I do think he'll beat your ass, Ngannou told Paul. Listen, I have seen Tyson move around just to show me stuff. He was like, this footwork moves like this. And I was like, hold on, calm down. He's still got it. Either way, I think Mike Tyson will beat you up. We're talking about Mike, bro. Mike is something else. He's a specimen. To which, gotta love this too, Jake Paul replies, I love it when people stand on business and say the other person's going to win. I like it. It makes it fun. He's my boy too.
I mean, if you're going to be disappointed that he wades into the discourse, I mean, he went on Jake Paul's show. So you've essentially entered the discourse. You've entered the discourse zone around this fight the minute you go on Jake Paul's show. And Big Fran, he got a fight coming up to sell. If he can get on Jake Paul's show, let Jake Paul's listeners know that there's a thing called PFL. and that he's going to fight in it soon. I get it. Makes all the sense in the world. And honestly, I do respect it going on the dude's show and being like, you about to get your ass kicked. I also think though that maybe Francis Ngannou is just because he grew up sort of idolizing Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
Some part of him still thinks it's 1992 also.
it's possible. Either that or he's thinking, I wish it was me who had a big money fight with Mike Tyson coming
I
up.
mean, if anybody put Francis Ngannou in there with Mike Tyson right now, I'd say they should go straight to jail.
Do not pass go, do not
No,
collect
no
$200.
trial, nothing.
I mean, it's kind of like going over to a guy's house, though, right? Like, you're at the guy's house. Shouldn't you just give him a little courtesy, get some good manners?
You know,
Going
that's
over to him,
dishonest.
going over to his house and telling him you think he cooked the steak wrong.
Listen, hey, if you go over to his house, you see him cooking the steak, and you're like, bro, you're fucking that up. That is rude. But if you're going over there and he's like, hey, I've been working on this steak. Seriously, what do you think? Tell him the truth.
Remind me not to invite you over. Number 4 this week, Ben. I don't know if Ireland has a president or if Conor McGregor can run to be it, but he is, allegedly. Here, this is Conor McGregor on Twitter, and there's some Irish words in here, so I'm going to warn you about that beforehand. He says, quote, as president, I hold the power to summon the dial, which I don't know how you say that, as well as dissolve it. So as I said before, I would have all the answers the people of Ireland seek from these thieves of the working man, these disruptors of the family unit, these destructors of small businesses, and on and on and on. These charlatans in their positions of power would be summoned to answer to the people of Ireland, and I would have done it by day end. Or I would be left with no choice but to dissolve the dial entirely. Stop the train until... The people of Ireland deserve the answers they seek, point blank. This would be my power as president. I know very well. Ireland needs an active president employed wholly by the people of Ireland. It is me. I am the only logical choice.
The only logical choice. Wow.
2025 is upcoming, ... You know what? I kept a straight face through it until I am the only logical choice.
Yeah. Really, I can't see how any reasonable person could vote for anyone other than Conor McGregor. Ireland does have a president. The
Okay.
president right now is Michael D. Higgins. I kind of need you to Google him just so you can see a picture of him.
Okay.
Because you will see him and you'll be like, yep, that's the president of Ireland. That's what I thought was going on over there.
Oh, that is the president of Ireland. And I have read his best-selling trilogy of fantasy novels, Michael D. Higgins.
I really hope he does run because after my own time in Ireland, and I came, I think, just after an election, and as I mentioned, I really enjoyed how you're driving along, you see the political signs up along the street, and it'll just be a picture of the candidate, and it'll be like a one sentence, like a short sentence slogan, but our political slogans are way more like they're vague. They're trying to capture a feeling. They don't really tell you anything about policy positions. And their slogans at times were just like incredibly literal, where it was just like defund this specific branch of the government, blame problems on this specific group. Like it was very clear when you would see the slogan where this person falls on the Irish political spectrum. And I kind of appreciated that forthrightness. I would love to know what Conor McGregor puts as his one sentence slogan.
I mean,
obviously the picture would be him in a suit that is 2 sizes too small.
Yeah.
With a watch that cost $500,000, posing in his like karate stance at a film premiere where he is out of his mind on something or other. What is his slogan though?
I mean, I feel like he stakes out a pretty clear populist appeal here. It's the part where
he's family unit, Conor McGregor.
When he starts talking about the disruptors of the family unit. That's the point where it starts sounding a little Nazi-ish, You know what I'm saying? Little kind of who are the disruptors of the family unit
Yeah. Do you think
exactly?
he has someone in mind to blame?
It's possible. It seems like
And
he's tiptoeing around the issue here a little bit, but I
maybe
don't
it's
know.
not the other people who look like him that he thinks are to blame for it all?
I would love to see a debate between Conor McGregor and Michael V. Higgins or whatever his name is, just because, fireworks would ensue, I'm sure. Conor McGregor probably does the Billy strut on his way out to the podium, puts a bottle of proper 12. He cracks open a forged stout, and then we can get underway with this thing.
At some point, Michael D. Higgins will certainly shake his head in dismay and say, "Oh, now, lad." Like he's just, you've gone too far now.
Michael Chandler gets up in the morning. He walks downstairs in his robe. He puts on his slippers. He walks out to the end of the driveway. He picks up his copy of the Wall Street Journal, his copy of the New York Times, his copy of the Washington Post, his copy of the Irish Times.
All of them just in a big pile down
Yeah,
there at the driveway?
yeah.
Okay.
He, of course, he opens up the Irish Times first,
Yeah.
looks at the front page. McGregor to run for president. That's it.
Then he just
He
stands
has a
there
Tony
staring.
Soprano style dissociative episode anxiety attack. He falls in the pool.
His mouth hangs agape as he stares off at the horizon, wind gently blowing his bathrobe.
Can you imagine, in all seriousness, being Michael Chandler, having your borderline personality breakdown, starting to be like, God, maybe I should, you know what? Maybe I should move on. Maybe I should move on from the McGregor fight. And then a tweet comes out where McGregor's like, I'm running for the president of Ireland. Just like, oh, God. You know what? I wish he would run for the president of
Oh,
Ireland.
yeah.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see that.
I think we can all agree it would be, first of all, a boost for the Irish media. Anybody who has a newspaper column to write in Ireland, they need this. MMA media would definitely benefit from it. I think even Michael Chandler would benefit from it because it'll be the thing that forces him to finally let go.
What if he decides to run against Conor McGregor for the president of Ireland?
Like one way or another, Conor McGregor, we will have ourselves a showdown.
Number 3 this week, Ben. A fighter on this week's Dana White Contender Series being so broke that UFC staff had to buy her groceries. I guess there are multiple ways we could look at that. Now, this is from this week's Dana White Contender Series. As I said, the biggest upset in the history of the Contender Series, White said. UFC matchmaker Mick Maynard was telling us that he was going through his text chain with her and her people. She almost didn't come. She had no money. She doesn't have $1 to her name right now. Her per diem got messed up and all this stuff. So the staff had to go grocery shopping for her. And then she comes in and she does that, which I believe is win by knockout. Let me tell you what, she ain't broke now. Of course, we are talking about...
She's got as many as $10,000 before taxes and management fees and all that.
We are talking about Eunice, nailed it, Duben, who came in with a spectacular one-punch knockout of the massively favored Shannon Clark in just 73 seconds. I'm reading from Alexander K. Lee's story on MMA Fighting. Okay, it's nice that they bought her groceries.
Yeah. When he says her per diem got messed up,
I assume that means she didn't get it somehow.
They're the ones who pay the per diem, so they messed it up, is what
yeah,
it sounds like you're saying.
He's using the passive voice.
Yeah.
Got messed up, but I think we can infer that the UFC messed it up.
A civilian was killed by the bullet fired from a police officer's gun, kind of thing.
It's nice. This is nice. It's a nice story.
Is it though?
You're inviting dead ass broke fighters to come essentially fight for their lives, fight for their livelihoods in front of the most powerful and richest man that maybe combat sports has ever seen. I don't know. Near billionaire Dana White for his pleasure while he does the emperor's thumbs up or thumbs down on your performance. And they bring you in as a massive underdog. So it wasn't like, oh, we'll bring in this she's dead broke, she needs a job, we'll bring her in, we'll give her a fight we think she can win. No, they just like she's going to get her ass kicked on the Contender Series. And then when she wins, we're going to all stand around and pat ourselves on the back for what a great job we did buying her groceries and giving her, $10,000 to $12,000, whatever.
I mean, it's a nice story the same way community rallies to raise money for cancer survivor. Or like everybody got together, pitched in to help you pay for the heart transplant you needed or you would die kind of thing. Where, yeah, it is nice people helping people. Ideally, it wouldn't be necessary, especially because there is money being made on this venture. It's just not the fighters making it.
Glad they bought her groceries, though. Number 2 this week, Ben. Reason 5,281 why it wasn't smart for Merab Dvalishvili to tell us on social media that he had a bad cut on his face. Sean O'Malley promises to punch him in it. This is Sean O'Malley talking to Kevin Iole. I am 100% going to open that cut, whether it's healed or not. I don't know how much it can heal. I've never had any bad cuts, so I'm not sure really, but I'm going to be aiming for the cut. That's the left side of his face. This right hand does not miss. I'll probably accidentally hit his nose before I hit that cut. The nose just kind of takes up 85% of his face, so I'm going to try and get around his nose to get to that cut.
First of all, I think it's the right side of his face.
I don't know. I'm not out here fact checking Sean O'Malley's statement about how he's going to punch Merab Dvalishvili with a right hand that does not miss, except he might miss and hit the nose instead of I don't know.
I talked to your boy Merab just a couple days ago.
Did you ask him what if Sean O'Malley punches you in your cut, bro?
You could see the cut on his face. So even if he didn't post that video, we were going to know, just because this week is when they've been doing some of the media and everything for that fight. And so it's very noticeable that you see it on his face. I did ask him why you do that. What were you hoping would come of posting this on social media? His answer to me, Chad, was basically that as he was getting stitched up, he wanted to watch the stitching being done. And so he used his phone first, sort of as just like thinking to, you could turn the camera around, use it essentially as a mirror to watch. And then he was like, well, hey, I do stuff on Instagram Live all the time. This would be fun, right? And so he just turns on his Instagram Live. And then the next thing you know, he's broadcasting it to people. So it sounds like maybe he didn't think it through and be like, this is why you want to film it first. Give yourself some time to think about whether or not to post it rather than just go on live broadcast. Crazy shit can happen with live TV,
Yeah. Yeah.
Ask pro wrestlers. They've learned that lesson.
Did you ask him if he regretted it? Did you ask him if he could do it all over again? Would he still post the Instagram Live video of his cut?
He seemed unrepentant, but also like maybe enough people had pointed out that it was not a great idea. But he was also like, it's going to be healed by then. It only takes a few days to heal, get started healing. And it was like 3 weeks before the fight. It'll be fine. But you could see it. You could definitely see it.
So maybe we were going to know anyway.
Probably.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal that he posted it.
He was also sort of like, fighting the UFC in Las Vegas, they're not going to pull me out of the fight because of this cut. So what am I really worried? And I was just like, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there.
Number 1 this week, Ben. So now we know that the UFC's production at Sphere will include short films between each fight, and that the fights themselves will all take place in, quote, different worlds. Will medical personnel be standing by to assist Joe Rogan when his fucking acid trip goes bad on him? The fuck are we even doing here, man? This is, I believe, quotes from Craig Bossari, who is the longtime UFC production guru. He says, at the highest level, we're trying to think about how do we put on a live MMA fight, 10 fights throughout the night, and not take away from the fight action, not take too much time in between fights where we slow things down, but also tell this other story about the Mexican people and their heritage and their culture because it's rich and it's deep. Those would be our main drivers for storytelling, everything that Dana wants to get across. Those films then transition into what we're calling these worlds, which is like these environments that take up the entire LED screen that then the fights sit within. So there's what we call a film and a world and an act. So there's these acts that take you through the entire night, and we tell the story within those acts.
Different worlds.
I
We do
mean,
need to make sure that Rogan is prepared for this because can't you just picture his face?
yeah.
Can't you picture the face he'll make?
Yes.
I can picture it right now in my mind. Looking wildly around him.
Yeah. Yes. I guarantee you he will make a joke about how it's on acid. It looks like he feels like he's on acid.
And he will be like, and I am merely on synthetic testosterone and DMT.
Ayahuasca. Yeah, the UFC generally comes through with its productions, right?
Yeah.
Generally, the one thing you can count on with the UFC is that the production will be fairly flawless, that they will accomplish whatever production mission they set out to accomplish. I kind of think that they will in some way pull this off. The Sphere, this being probably the most ambitious thing they've ever done from a production standpoint. Oh, by the way, I will also say this is the Damon Martin story. It starts out by saying, with a $20 million investment, UFC 306 at the Sphere in Las Vegas promises to look different from any other card the promotion has produced. I guess you could say it's an investment. It's mostly just the budget, the price tag that they put on that thing. I kind of think they will probably pull it off.
Yeah.
But when you start reading about how the fights take place in different worlds, how could you not have any response other than, what?
Honestly, when I try to think of times where the UFC has actually tried to do something cool and different production-wise, and they haven't pulled it off, I really can't think of many, especially in like recent times, like the modern UFC. You know, you could go back to when we had Mask from Tap Out introduce Chuck Liddell as intolerant, like some of those early production stuff. But recently, whenever they have tried to actually do something that's beyond the normal hit the lights, have the guy walk stuff, like remember Israel Adesanya's Undertaker entrance against Jared Cannonier, some of the other stuff that they've done for big title fights. It always feels like they manage to nail it when they actually do this stuff. And so I'm encouraged and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it's actually like because having them actually care, for one thing, having them push themselves, having Dana White push people to do something different, to make use of the space and all that, I think it will be cool. I think that it'll be really interesting. And then I think they'll go right back to the paint by numbers approach that they usually do. And probably the production people will be kind of happy to, after Dana White has, I'm sure, overworked everybody to get this done. But like, yeah, I bet it'll be super cool because like I'm all for them actually doing some different stuff because they can. They actually can.
All right. We do have time
I don't
as
know,
we
man.
close
It's
out
pretty
this
late.
this
It's getting
episode.
late.
We have time for $20 we never want to see again.
Is that the school bus pulling up?
I was so close. Your boy was so close to having a positive week this week. I went 4-4 on my bets. They were mostly college football point spread bets. Pretty happy with what I did. And I was so close on Cal and UC Davis. I was so close on the point spread, but I did not get it. I won my bets on Oklahoma State to defeat South Dakota State by more than 9.5. I won my bet on Washington State to defeat Portland State by more than 28. I won my bet that said North Dakota would stay within 28.5 of Iowa State. And I won my bet of SEMO plus 8.5 at New Mexico State. So all told, I finished at 1894, which put me at a loss of $1.06. I came into the week at negative $61.07. I come into this week at negative $62.13.
Okay, I have adopted a new position when it comes to telling you how my bets did. The position is it's none of your fucking business
Okay,
how
I
my
see. So
bets
we're
did.
we're going with kind of a college football informational policy here.
Don't fucking worry about how my bets did. Worry about your own bets. That's my position at this time.
Okay. So you're like, are you into like minus $200 yet? Are we? It's triple digits, right?
Hey, I ain't saying nothing.
Okay. We should have lost track of where your bets are. His losses cannot easily be counted.
Let's just say that I could stand to win a few this week. All
I
right,
think you're
that's all you
due.
need to know.
You're due, as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned. All right, I have 7 bets. Where you at?
4.
Okay. I just have some boring ass UFC bets. I have a Fletcher and Petrosky 2-fight combo. It would pay out $2.50 bet plus 136 would pay out $5.90. I have Rong Zhu and Lima. Sprinkle a little Marat on there. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Biggest favorite in UFC history. Plus 131, a $2.50 bet would pay out $5.79. I have Durden and Peak in a 2-fight combo. That's plus 144. $2.50 bet pays out $6.11. And then I have Silva and Garcia in a 2-fight combo at plus 101 that would pay out $5.03.
Feel compelled to ask, since it has come up pretty recently, how much you researched any of these people.
Did you note that I just didn't say any of their first names?
Just because it's happened before, where you put some money down just because you figure favorites, they got to be a favorite for a reason, and then you realize the other person's like an all-American wrestler, and then you go, "Uh-oh."
This was the original strategy. I was going to combo favorites all year and, in theory, make a modest earning more times than not and finish somewhere on the positive side of the ledger. And that has not worked.
Okay.
But we're staying with the system, especially on weeks when I can't find any Big Sky college football betting lines. And so I can't make the bets I'd rather make.
Can't find any, huh?
I looked around, I Googled it. If somebody knows out there where I could bet consistently on Big Sky Conference football games, let me know, because I haven't found them on DraftKings. I looked at FanDuel, I couldn't find them. If I'm fucking up somehow and they're out there, but I can't find them and somebody knows where they are, let me know.
Sometimes you do have to do a little bit of looking around on some of these sites for the FCS section.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times they'll make you click an extra thing to find where they're hiding the FCS bets. Maybe it's so they know when they got a real sucker. Like, we got one. An alert goes off in the head office.
Yeah, as soon as I find that link, we'll see who's laughing.
I have only one UFC bet this week. Give me Sean Brady and give me Rong Zhu. Together, they're both favorites. Together, they make a plus 114 parlay. $5 to make 1072.
Okay. That seems safe enough. I
And
have
then I'm going to tell you
Sean.
right now, I'm going to spend the rest of my money in the National Football League. Let's
Okay,
go.
that's right in the wheelhouse of your other job. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to take Sean Brady, the boy Sean Brady, straight up. Minus 185. A $4 bet will pay out $6.16.
$4 bet. That's a strange bet. You're
Well,
like, I couldn't quite get myself to $5, but I feel bolder about it than I do with my $2.50 bet, which would have netted you like 75 cents or something.
maybe I have a different bet coming up. Did you ever stop and think about that?
Didn't stop to think for a second about it. First, I'm gonna go a little money line action. Just on the money line. Give me the Steelers over the Falcons. Give me the Dolphins over whatever asshole team they're playing. I can't even remember now.
Whatever
plus
asshole team they're playing. Okay.
plus 301 odds on that. $5 makes me $20.08. Let's
Okay.
go.
Now I mentioned earlier that I had a 3-fight combo. I said that I had Brendan Marat in that. I actually had Isaac Dolgarian. So my 3-fight combo is uh Rong Zhu, Petrosky, and Lima. What I do have though, if you're gonna say that a guy is the biggest favorite in UFC history, you know I'm gonna drop one bone on his opponent, right? You know, I in good faith have to take Brendan Marat at plus 1,200. $1 bet would pay out $13.
Just
That's why you had your $4 bet, Ben
just
Folks.
looking in the couch cushions for something to throw into the wind.
I'm not gonna Ben Folk style and put my whole twin down on the plus 1,200, plus 12,000, whatever it is, 1,200 underdog. I'm trying to not lose my wits over here.
Okay. Dolphins, by the way, playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are at home.
Okay. I admit the Jacksonville Jaguars is an asshole team,
Yeah.
but just because you play the Dolphins doesn't necessarily make you an asshole team.
I just knew that it was an asshole team this week.
Are you worried that it's an in-state rivalry?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not at all.
You can throw out the record books in a rivalry game. That's what I've always heard.
We'll see. I think the Dolphins would be stunned to learn that anybody referred to the Jacksonville Jaguars as their rival. Here's one where writing shit for work got me to talk myself into something.
Okay.
We always know historically that goes very well for me. But I wrote about how one sports book they're doing a promotion where you can make a bet on somebody to score the game's first touchdown. And if they do, then you win your bet, obviously. You're pretty good odds on those. And if they don't score the first touchdown, but they do score the game's second touchdown, then you get your money back. And I'm not making this bet with that sports book. So I do not get that promotion.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But you're just writing about it, and you're thinking about it, and you're like, okay, you're looking over there at the Dolphins against the Jaguars, especially if the Dolphins get the ball first. Maybe even if they don't get the ball first, they got that high-powered offense, Chad.
Mm-hmm.
What if they throw a big pass play over there to Tyreek Hill? He picks up, 60 yards on one play, but gets stopped on like the 4. And then they hand it to your boy, Raheem Mostert, who rumples into the end zone for the game's first touchdown, plus 650 odds. $5 makes me $37.50.
Okay, so the bet is that this specific guy will score the game's first touchdown.
Raheem Mostert will score the first touchdown in the Dolphins-Jaguars game on Sunday.
Okay, so the fanciful scenario involving Tyreek Hill does not have to transpire.
Not necessarily, but I just had to picture it in my mind.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, that's probably not a bad bet, right? It's probably not bad considering the odds. Well, Ben, the Idaho Vandals went on the road in week 1 and they played the Oregon Ducks for a nice payday for your boys down there in Moscow. They hung tough with them. They hung tough with Oregon, went to the fourth quarter trailing just 14-7 within one touchdown of the Oregon Ducks. They end up losing 24-14, but the whole world was stunned that the Idaho Vandals were able to make it this close against Oregon last week.
The whole world?
The whole world was stunned. The entire college football world was stunned.
Okay.
This week, the Idaho Vandals trek down there to Wyoming, where they are merely 7.5-point underdogs. And I look at that line and I say, fuck that. Wyoming is going to smoke Idaho. Not the least of which is because Idaho's starting quarterback broke his collarbone in the game against the Ducks, had to have surgery. He will not play. Give me those Cowboys. Rustle them up, Pokes. -7.5 to defeat Idaho. -110. A $5 bet pays out $9.54. Take it to the fucking bank.
See, that's the part they don't tell you about taking that payday to go play a powerhouse team. Is that maybe your quarterback gets his whole shit broke.
Fuck the Vandals. Gonna get smoked by Wyoming this weekend.
Feels just kind of like you just have an axe to grind.
Gonna be rolling in with the proverbial hangover after the big Oregon game.
That proverbial hangover.
Thanks for listening. Oh, you got one more?
I got one more.
Okay, I thought we were done. You got one more.
Bills -6.5 against the lowly and woeful Arizona Cardinals at home for the Bills. I'll take that. Plus the Dallas Cowboys +2.5 at the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, I'll take that. Plus,
oh boy,
the San Francisco 49ers -4.5 at home against the Jets on Monday Night Football. I'll take that too, please. That is a 3-leg parlay plus 611 odds. $5 makes me $30.58.
You got to take some big swings, I guess, to get back out of this unknowable hole you've dug yourself into. Will you tell us when you get back on the positive side of things? Will you let us know then?
Wait and see.
Okay, just wondering.
I stand to make. I mean, if all my bets hit this week, I'm looking at around $100 that I'm assuming is already as good as in my hand from this week alone.
Once you win them all, that'll definitely happen.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're back next week with the proper. We hope you enjoy Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns over the weekend. We appreciate the support. Thanks for listening, everybody. We're done.